Some people stay quiet because they're scared of who they used to be. Joshua Bright doesn't talk much. He reads. He occasionally plays the harmonica when no one's around, and he's usually the one that stays calm when everyone else is falling apart. People think that's strength, and to a certain extent it is, but it's also something else. It's control, and control is what you learn when you can't afford to be seen. Joshua spent his entire childhood being shaped into a weapon. He was trained to disappear into crowds, to read people, to strike without hesitation. And then one day he wakes up in a house that feels like home, with a little girl who won't stop believing in him, and a father who asks nothing in return. For 5 years, he gets to pretend to be someone else, someone normal, someone who deserves this. And then, the past comes back. Here's what breaks him. Not necessarily the danger, but it actually winds up being the guilt. Because Joshua deep down knows what he's done. He knows the blood on his hands that he can never wash off. He knows that everything Estelle believes in him about is built on a version of himself he's been hiding from her the entire time, and up until a certain point, himself. So he does what a lot of men and boys do when they can't really face the situation that they find themselves in. He runs. And he doesn't run because he stopped caring per se, but he realizes how much he actually cares to let Estelle see what's underneath. Because staying means she'd have to know not only the truth, but to him, the truth feels extremely unforgivable. That's the weight. You carry something so heavy for so long that you forget it's possible to put it down. Some people stay quiet because they're scared of who they used to be. Joshua Bright doesn't talk much. He reads. He occasionally plays the harmonica when no one's around, and he's usually the one that stays calm when everyone else is falling apart. People think that's strength, and to a certain extent it is, but it's also something else. It's control, and control is what you learn when you can't afford to be seen. Joshua spent his entire childhood being shaped into a weapon. He was trained to disappear into crowds, to read people, to strike without hesitation. And then one day he wakes up in a house that feels like home, with a little girl who won't stop believing in him, and a father who asks nothing in return. For 5 years, he gets to pretend to be someone else, someone normal, someone who deserves this. And then, the past comes back. You actually probably carried something like this. Alright, look, maybe you weren't an assassin, but you've done things you're not proud of. Said things you wish you could take back. Hurt people without meaning to, or worse, meaning to at the time, and regretting it later. And now you walk around with this quiet weight that nobody else can see. And trust me, this is something I can relate to. You look fine on the outside, you show up, you handle things, normal day-to-day activities. People think you're steady, reliable, maybe even intimidating. But inside, you're convinced that if anyone really knew, if they saw the full picture, they'd leave. So you keep distance, you stay surface level, and you let people get close, but never all the way. That's what Joshua teaches us. Guilt doesn't make you run from danger, it makes you run from love. Because love asks you to be seen, to be whole. And being seen means someone might look at your past and decide you're not worth the risk. So, you leave first. You shut down, you find the reasons why it won't work, why you're better off alone, why they deserve someone who isn't carrying what you're carrying. And here's what actually makes that so brutal. You think you're protecting them, but you're really protecting yourself from the moment that they might choose to stay anyway. Because if they stay, if they see everything and don't run, then you have to face the possibility that maybe you're not as unforgivable as you convinced yourself you are. And that's the harder truth and the harder action than running. That's harder than staying gone. So, if Joshua's whole story arc resonated with you and you find yourself in a similar situation, albeit something big or maybe small, here's something you can do starting literally this week. Name one thing you've been carrying that you haven't let yourself look at yet. Not really the big stuff, not the thing that keeps you up at 3 a.m, just one small piece of guilt you've been holding on to. Something you did that you wish you hadn't, something you said that you'd take back if you could. And I want you to write it down. Say it out loud to yourself in an empty room. Let it exist for a minute without rushing to justify it or explain it away. Because in all actuality, Joshua's story actually teaches that you can't heal what you won't acknowledge. Right? The weight doesn't go away because you ignore it. It just gets heavier. And eventually, it shapes every choice you make, every relationship you sabotage, and every time you pull back when someone gets too close. Then, what I want you to do after you've named it, ask yourself one question. What would it look like to stop running, even if it's just for one conversation? Not forever, not some big old grand gesture, just once. Tell one person the one true thing about what you've been carrying. See what happens when you stop protecting them from your past and start trusting them with your present. That's the practice, and that's how you start putting the weight down. In close, Joshua eventually comes back. He learns that running doesn't erase the past, but what it actually does is delays the moment when you have to face it. The weight is real, but you don't have to carry it alone. What's one thing you've been running from that you're ready to finally look at? Drop it in the comment section and let's talk about it.